Hello, let's talk about Trump sending in the National Guard and now the Marines to Los Angeles to enforce civil laws, basically to squelch protests. So, a lot of people think that Trump as the president can do whatever he wants, but that's not actually true because we have a constitution, and the Constitution has separation of powers. So we have Congress and we have the judicial system. So there's something called the Posse Comitatus Act, and that basically prohibits the use of the military, specifically the Army, I think an Air Force, I'm not sure whether or not it applies to the Marines, for domestic law enforcement purposes unless authorized by Congress. And I think the Department of Defense policy, whether or not the Posse Comitatus applies directly to Marines, extends to the entire military branch, so that would include Marines. So Congress has enacted, so the president can't send in the military under Posse Comitatus. So that basically leaves the Insurrection Act, which I think is what Trump is going for here. However, the Insurrection Act has very specific provisions. Section 251 says that the president can send in the military or National Guard at the request of a state governor or legislature. Well, that didn't happen here. Governor Newsom has specifically said he did not want them in. He didn't ask for them, and in fact, he calls on Trump to remove them. So Trump has deployed despite the objections of the governor. Section 252 is without a request if ordinary law enforcement is unable to enforce federal laws. That's not the case here because prior to the troops going in, there was a small localized protest, and it was under control. Federal laws were not in jeopardy. The third one, 253, is if insurrection or rebellion interferes with constitutional rights or impedes federal functions. Not the case because, again, prior to the troops coming in, it was a relatively contained, localized protest. And as we saw in the video, the federal agents were able to complete their federal functions. They were able to detain people, take them in the van, transport them. They got hassled a bit, they got yelled at, they got videoed, but they were fully able to complete their functions. However, Trump sent in the troops and now the Marines, intentionally trying to inflame a situation to make it worse. And that is the playbook right out of Hitler. Hitler did very similar things, manufacturing crises to cement his power, to use the military to say the old playbook of, for everyone's safety, now we have to stamp down on people's rights. So now is the time to get out there and protest peacefully, to exercise your First Amendment right to peacefully protest because they can't send the military everywhere.